what can we do to make money so we can keep traveling?
You weren't posting every day like a lot of people recommend,
They'll
right?
only publish one video every 2 weeks. That's only 24 a year.
Easiest way to succeed is to focus less on quantity and focus more on quality.
How can you monetize beyond just your YouTube channel? So we launched as a really small business and just didn't know what was going to happen. A year of expenses, but then we earned that in 1 month. So allow yourself the grace to make the mistakes, but keep going.
All right, well, we'll start here. Jana, thank you so much for being on the podcast today. And our first question is a little bit about your background. Like, what came first for you? Was it thinking about YouTube and then travel became your outlet for that? Or was it a life of travel that then found its way onto YouTube?
Oh, that's such a good question. I'm really excited to be here, by the way. So thanks for having me. For us, really, it started with travel. And there's so many details, but in high school, my parents took us on a European road trip and we came to Switzerland and part of it. And I was standing in Luzerne on this covered wooden bridge. And I remember telling my dad, I'm going to honeymoon here one day. I loved it. So we went to Europe multiple times and I loved it. And then my husband, Brett, he had this picture on his wall of Grindelwald, which is this beautiful valley in Switzerland. And it was just kind of an inspiration picture about, I really want to go there. And one day I want to make it happen to be in Europe and to go to Switzerland, be in the Alps. So it really started with travel for us. And so fast forwarding a huge chunk of our story, but for a handful of years, we just came to Europe every single year on trips. And we actually spent 19 months nonstop traveling Europe. We went to I think it was 23 European countries in 19 months. And so travel really came first for us. But my husband always wanted to have his own business. He has an entrepreneurial spirit. And so it was always kind of floating around, especially when we traveled, because we wanted to find a way to share our travels. Like if your friends go on vacation, you ask them, how was it? And they show you pictures or their souvenirs, right? And when you spend your life, 19 months of your life traveling, pictures only go so far, right? And so we had the original photo albums on Facebook, which that's what you did back in 2016, right? And then we started getting into Instagram stories because we thought maybe the videos would be a better way to share. And it just still never felt quite enough. And so that's where we made the leap to YouTube. It really was this desire to share our travels and our experiences better with people. And obviously, we're still doing YouTube today.
Yeah. Oh, it's so crazy. And I can relate to it so much because you're actually living out my dream. Like when I picked up a camera for the first time, my goal was to craft a career in which I could travel while getting paid, right? I went to school to be a doctor, and in school I was like, I enjoy this, but I don't love it. And so picking up that camera was kind of like the outlet. And eventually, one thing leads to another, similar to your story. But I want to ask, while you were traveling 19 months full time. This is before YouTube existed for you, right?
So this was 2015 and 2016, and we didn't start YouTube until 2021.
Wow, that's crazy, the progress you guys have had in 4 years, if that. Yeah, so what were you doing for work that allowed you to take that time? Were you guys working remote?
Yeah, so before we started traveling, I was a part-time nanny in childcare. And then my husband was a competitive gymnastics coach for children. And so we weren't making a ton of money. And so we were like, let's just transition to online work. So my husband was able to do some work for that gymnastics company online while we were gone. And then I transitioned to copywriting. So I have some experience from university in writing. And so I became a copywriter and eventually focused in SEO copywriting. And so we just kind of did that work for a couple years, kind of built our own side business. We really enjoyed it. And all of that actually helped us when we did launch our business, but it really wasn't related at all. It was just kind of, what can we do to make money so we can keep traveling? What can we do that has no time constraints or need to be in an office? And so that's what we ended up with. I don't know if I would say I recommended the path that we took, but it worked for us and it was just kind of a stepping stone season.
Yeah, I mean, copywriting is one of the most valuable skills for what we obviously do, both of us. So that was a huge head start. You strike me, if I were to make assumptions here, as the type of people who have a long-term vision. At that point in your life, working remote while traveling, was part of the long-time vision what you guys are now living out now? Or was it truly we don't know exactly what we're going to be doing down the road, but we are just living for the moment currently?
Man, I think a combination of both. That's actually a hard question because we knew we wanted to live in Europe. And one of the trips we took in, I think it was 2019, was kind of a vision trip of we want to live in Europe. So where do we want to live? We've been to a lot of places as a tourist, but where would we want to spend time? So I think part of the vision was definitely to move to Europe. But part of the vision is you need a way to do it. Like you need a living, you need to make money. And can we do something we love? We're not the people to be in a job that we hate just to make money. We've never been like seekers of money. We're pretty frugal people. And so it was kind of like, we just need enough, right? Like we want jobs we enjoy to make enough money to live in Europe. But there's a lot of barriers to all of that. And part of the vision too was wanting to move to Europe that it's really hard to do as an American. And in the middle of this season, we found out my family's from Sicily. And so we found out that we're eligible for dual Italian citizenship through my ancestors. And so in the middle of all of this travel, I got my Italian passport and then Brett got one through me through marriage. And so that made it even more feasible to go to Europe. So now we have this desire to live in Europe and we had kind of a ticket with a passport. And so it was just the whole, we need work enough to sustain ourselves. And that's kind of where we were when we started YouTube. And we hoped maybe YouTube would become something. We actually hoped that YouTube itself, like making videos, would become our income. But what we found out in content creation is there's actually like, that's just the front door, basically.
Oh my, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that is so true. When you guys first started making YouTube videos, you said that was 2021, right?
Yeah. Mhm.
You were not living it full time, or you were living full time in Europe at that point?
No, we were not. So we started by making YouTube videos about traveling Europe, just Europe in general. It was kind of a vloggy style. And so we were not living in Europe, but we were spending a couple months a year in Europe, anywhere from 3 to 6 months. We really were splitting our time and pretty much making all of our content in that 3 to 6 months to last us for the whole year at that point. And we didn't move full time to Europe until 2023.
Okay, gotcha. That makes sense. And we're going to talk about that later because I want to know how you guys batch out your content so well.
Yeah, thank you.
So you start making videos. They are primarily focused on you guys vlogging, right? You are not making educational content yet, right?
Right. So back up, we left for full time travel in 2016. We were gone in 2016, 2017. We left at the same time that Kara and Nate did. So Kara and Nate are like the biggest travel couple on YouTube. And they were kind of our model. We followed them. We loved to watch their videos. And we were like, okay, well, if we're doing YouTube, here's this couple who travels the world. Like, let's do kind of what they do, except let's just focus on Europe because that's what we love. So that's what we started with, was really a vloggy thing of like, we're going to this place, here's what we're doing. And it was super fun, but it just wasn't like taking off. And I will say one of the biggest things that really kind of helped us pivot and grow our channel was to really kind of target our, like everyone says, niche down, right? Target down. And that was when we really focused on Switzerland. But we also switched from a vlog style to more of like an infotainment is what we call it. So informative and entertaining at the same time. And so it didn't start that way. And those videos aren't all on our channel anymore from just traveling Europe in general. You can find them on our website, but yeah, so we definitely started with a wide funnel and had to narrow down.
Yeah, and I feel like that's a really common story where like, you know, somebody, even us, we started with like all content creation and then slowly focused down to like more beginner friendly stuff. Then it was like, hey, how to do it all with smartphones. And we talked about this in another podcast episode, but like I truly think that's one of the biggest mindset shifts a beginner can make, is going slightly away from like at the beginning, this perfect image of what you imagined your content creation to be like, right? Everybody wants to be like the vlog superstar where it's like millions of people tune in to listen to their life. And it's like, well, you got to give them a reason to value you, the creator at first. And I think you guys do such a good job with that infotainment style. So how long were you vlogging before you switched styles?
You know, it was less than a year, maybe about 9 months. We started in the end of May, and I think it was February the next year that we were like, okay, we have to be more focused.
Like, how quickly did you realize this new format was working? I get asked that a lot, where it's like, how long should I try a format before potentially switching up again?
Oh, that's a good question. I think before we kind of narrowed our focus, our Switzerland videos did perform better than most videos on our channel. So we kind of already knew that at least the location of Switzerland was better. I would say probably 6 to 9 months that we realized, like, okay, this is really working. Maybe even sooner because peak travel season is summer here in Switzerland. That's the content we were making. So we made a shift in February. So it was probably about 6 months or so that we were like, okay, yeah, this is really working. This is what people want. This is getting more views and audience, things like that.
And you mentioned this prior to us hitting the record button today, but you weren't posting like every day like a lot of people recommend, right?
No. So we really value balance and harmony and having work life balance in particular. And so we did not publish a ton. In the very beginning, we only published every 3 weeks, one video every 3 weeks. That shift in February, we aimed to publish every 2 weeks. So we still only publish one video every 2 weeks. That's only 24 a year. We didn't hit it hard and publish 30 videos in 30 days or anything like that. Because for us, it was really important that if we're going to share content, we want it to be the most helpful content you're going to find online. So we don't want to just put something out there and do like a subpar job or even make content that everybody else is making. And I do think that's one feature that we just value really high that does set us apart from our competitors is that you're not going to find this depth of information and quality in other people. I mean, yes, you can, but that's our goal is to always be the most helpful, the most informative, the most in depth.
Yeah, and I there are a lot of different opinions on this topic, but I personally agree 100%. I subscribe to that theory. Our first year on YouTube, or the first year that I kind of took over the channel, was 10 videos the entire year. It was very much like a side hustle for our business, and we got over 100,000 subscribers with those 10 videos. And our goal, similar to yours, has always just been like, when you're making a video, you don't own the topic, right? Everyone else has ownership. They can create whatever they want as well. And the easiest way to succeed is to focus less on quantity and focus more on quality. Because YouTube does a really good job of showcasing the best quality. And that doesn't mean like most expensive cameras or anything like that. It just means like a lot of thought and planning and care goes into the videos that you produce, which is clear with you guys. Your guys' products are really, I've bought a lot of stuff online, and people say this about our courses too, but like part of the reason you guys are successful is because you have a good product and you can tell it wasn't just like thrown together to make money.
We made our first content with like free tools on Canva. Like we didn't even have a paid Canva, and all we had was like PDFs and Google spreadsheets. And you know what? We still do that. We now pay for Canva, but like you don't have to have this huge investment even. Like that's where all of our guides are made. All of them. It's all on Canva. I think too, to just remind people, like you don't have to even have this big setup. We still film on our iPhone with a Rode mic. Like that's what we use. We don't have this luxury camera and we don't have these fancy lights or I mean, like you don't have to, like you said, you don't have to have this huge investment startup. Like just start. So for these people who are getting started, man, like the products and the tools, there's so many out there now that are free that are fantastic.
Yeah, I meant to ask you what, because I had a feeling your videos look amazing, but I had a feeling they were shot on an iPhone just because I teach it. So like I have an eye for it. And I wanted to ask that because so many people, again, think like, oh, I need a $5,000 Sony camera to start on YouTube.
We started with the DJI Osmo Pocket. It was pretty good. It was good when we were doing the vloggy stuff before we really like centered, but we film on an iPhone 12 Max. That's what Brett has. And then sometimes on my iPhone 11 if we need it. And then we have two different Rode mics that we attached. One of them is more, it's a directional mic. It works better inside. And then one of them is just a regular mic. I don't even know what it's called. It has the fuzzy thing on top of it. And little kids always think it's like some kind of animal. It's really cute. But that's what we film on. We're thinking about getting lapel mics. We think that could be helpful. But yeah, that's what we film on. Our setup is pretty simple. We have a basic tripod. We do use a GoPro if we do anything adventurous or like train ride shots, but really it's predominantly on our iPhone. And we thought about getting other cameras, but this is just so portable with travel and it works so well. And the iPhones are so good. I mean, we're going to get a new iPhone probably in the next year or two. And the cameras I see your videos, they're comparable. And so we basically don't overcomplicate it if you don't need to.
Yeah. I mean, so many people let the camera gear hinder the creation process. And, you know, Casey Neistat was one of the guys who inspired me to get into this. And he always had an amazing video where it was like, the best camera is the one that makes filming the video the easiest, that captures good enough video that people will watch. Yeah. And an iPhone right now is like, unless you're making Hollywood movies, it's the best option.
It is. And it's so simple. And now we can film on 4K in our phones. It's so much easier. Now we do use Premiere Pro for video editing. And then we use Canva for like all of our PDFs and all of our thumbnails. And we started with ConvertKit. It's now called Kit, but it's the email platform. We started with it for free, and all of our downloads are hosted on there. All of our purchases are through there. And it is absolutely fantastic. I 150% recommend Kit for anybody getting into emails and free downloads and stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, we have a basic setup. We don't want to have this huge overhead and complications, and it's just another barrier. What barriers can you remove, like you said, to make really good content?
Really quick interruption here. I just want to let you know that we released a brand new free training and downloadable 30-step action plan that walks through how you can set up your own digital business. Whether that's launching your first course, creating a digital product, or scaling an online community. This will give you an in-depth overview on the steps that you need to take to turn it into a reality. Thousands of people have used this proven blueprint to start their first digital business, and the results are incredible. Whether you're a complete beginner or you've been doing this for years, I promise you will learn incredibly powerful strategies in this training. So check that out. It's free and it's linked in the description below. Other than that, back to the episode.
You said that it kind of started gaining momentum there. You made the shift in February. When did you guys get to the point where it was like, oh, we could potentially quit our job, right? Or like this starts to feel real? What was that like inflection point?
Yeah, I think, we assumed YouTube would pay more. So there was a point, of course, you're making money on YouTube, which is awesome, right? Like, that's great. But we realized, wow, we're not going to make a full-time income very easily on YouTube alone. We decided to join a YouTube program to really help us like enhance our skills and see how can part of it was content creation of how can you like monetize beyond just your YouTube channel. We started doing that and just kind of learning about, man, the whole world. There's a whole spectrum of things, right? But beyond just YouTube. And so when we started doing that, we realized, okay, this is where making the money can come from. This is where we can potentially quit our jobs and put more time into this business. And so we really learned that with our first travel guide launch. So we make travel guides, and that's when we realized, okay, YouTube's a part of it, but there's another piece where we can make content that's just as helpful, but not in the video form. And we were really particular not to accept every partnership that lands in your inbox, because when you have a business, you hear from all of these companies. And I will never forget, we had like an emergency medical supply company reach out to us. I mean, just the wildest things. I was like, this isn't for your audience at all, right? But we were just really particular to say, like, we're not going to accept those. We're going to have like integrity in our content. And so that means we're not going to be making as much money, but we're going to really focus on the content and assume that it will grow from there. So I don't remember the exact inflection point, but it was certainly in the middle of this course that we were realizing, hey, we want to get better at YouTube, but actually there's a whole lot more to it that's beyond just YouTube.
Yeah. And I think that's like a journey that a lot of people go through, where it's like, I want to get monetized and get at YouTube to pay me AdSense. Then it's like, oh crap, if I do the math out on this, I need millions of views a month just to make enough to get by. But then I'm probably paying editors, I have other expenses, and it's like, it's not really all take home. But then they realize that like most YouTubers don't treat YouTube as the main revenue driver. It's just a funnel for eyeballs, where it's like, now what can we do with this? And a lot of people choose sponsorships, which I'm not quite as big a fan of, because you lose a bit of control over your content, like you said. Or they go the route that we love and that we recommend to most people, which is digital products, whether that's guides, courses, everything. So let's talk about that kind of like the digital product process. You guys sell these guides. At what point in your journey did the guide become a thing?
So February, we switched to the infotainment, and we had started that YouTube course. And in that course, we met some friends who, shout out to We're in the Rockies, Matt and Cheryl. They basically do what our business, we do traveling Switzerland, and they do traveling the national parks. And they are like a year or two ahead of us in their journey. And so we became friends with them, started kind of connecting, and saw that they were making travel guides. And they were like, hey, if you want to expand your business, like, this is the way to go. We have such a similar market. Like, this is how it works for our audience. And so in September, we launched our very first guide. And so that was 6, 7 months later. It was a total guessing game, right? We'd never done this before, but we launched a 1-day guide to our favorite place in Switzerland that we had been, I mean, dozens of times. And so it was basically a 1-day itinerary, everything you need to know, where to stay, where to eat, how to get there. And we launched that in September, which is actually the end of the travel season. We didn't realize that at the time, that there's kind of seasons to your business. And we had a successful launch, but we were like, oh, wow, it just opened the door to realize there's so much potential here. And we were putting all of our energy into YouTube, but we actually need to split our energy and still focus on YouTube. That's like the mouth of our funnel, right? How people find us. But then we need to put a chunk of time to sharing this endless knowledge in our brains with our audience in a different format. So we started making travel guides. And then we also started doing consultations. We would do video calls with travelers to help them plan their trip. This was partially to start making more money, but also it was really just to figure out, like, what do the people want, right? Like, we are talking to real travelers, and we did that for about 15 months. And we just learned, oh my gosh, so much about our audience. Like, there were trends and patterns we would have never really known had we not done that. And these questions you hear over and over, and things that people need reassurance on or a deeper understanding. And so we use that knowledge from the consultations to better craft our travel guides, which made them even better sellers and even more helpful. And so those kind of pieces went together, but we did eventually discontinue the consultations because we just didn't have the capacity anymore. And so we really now focus on YouTube and our travel guides.
Yeah, that's a good problem to have. I mean, not having the time to do coaching that people want to pay you for. That's awesome. I love that. And I highly recommend anyone getting out there that's trying to sell digital products. Like, it might not feel worth your time, but if you can get on the phone with people in your audience, it's like, oh my gosh, you learn so many assumptions that you're making, or like beliefs that you have. You hear people in your audience speak, and it's like, oh, they are thinking totally different than how I thought they think. A lot of people probably imagine that you guys had like 500,000 subscribers in September when you launched these digital guides. Can you tell us, like, numbers? How many subscribers did you have? What was your average video, doing at that time? And, how many views a month were you getting?
Yeah. So Brett is more of the numbers guy. So I'm going to ballpark it because I don't remember exactly, but I'm pretty sure we had about 30,000 subscribers, maybe slightly less. It wasn't a huge channel. We were still quite small. Our videos were probably getting 10 to 20,000 views max. Of course, there's some outliers there for really popular destinations, but they weren't like going crazy. But we were still like quite a small channel. I think our email list was maybe 3,000 people, 3,500. So we launched as a really small business and just didn't know what was going to happen. And we were blown away by that. We would call that first guide in September like our soft launch, where we were just really figuring things out. How do we do this? But we put together a better plan, and we made a 1-week guide to this most popular region in Switzerland. And we launched it in March of the following year. And so we really strategically made our YouTube videos to kind of prime our audience for that. We had sent some emails to like really make people realize their need for a guide like this. So we launched that in March, and I'll never forget the income we made from the guide sales alone in March, that 1 month, was the same amount of money we spent during our entire year traveling Europe. A year of expenses, but then we earned that in 1 month with this launch. And this is still our best-selling guide. We've sold thousands of these. And
I bought it.
Yeah, this
For
is what
anyone who's watching right now.
Yeah.
I found their channel because I'm planning my honeymoon in Switzerland, and I had no choice but to buy their guide because their videos were so good, and it's incredible. Like, highly recommend it. If anyone's traveling in Europe, like, go to their website. We'll have it linked below.
Thank you.
But yeah, no, it's so incredible. So many people say, well, I can't do this until this, or I can't do this until I feel like more of an expert. And what they don't realize is that everyone who's ever launched a business was guessing at every point. They're making educated guesses, and they know that, the door doesn't lock behind you. You can always walk back. You can always change, make improvements, do whatever you want. But just starting is the key. 3,000 people email list. What's kind of like the mechanics of, I don't have a product to sell? Because when I started my YouTube channel, I had stuff to sell. I made my digital product first. We sold with ads, and then YouTube became another part of that. you don't have a product to sell yet. You have a relatively smaller channel, but you're making videos and down the road you're going to sell a digital product. How are you guys collecting emails at that point?
Yeah, we were really intentional to have free downloads in our videos. And then with every video, we have a blog that pairs with it. So we had a website with people that could go to. So of course, in the blog, it's, a subscription sign up, but then a lot of free downloads of what people were asking for. So, hey, we made a map of the places we went in this area. It's free. You can get it on our email list. We made a download about where should you stay in this area, which village is best, about train passes, just all these different relevant topics. So we had free YouTube videos that were giving this information. We had free downloads that just made it easier to access this information. So that's where we gained more and more and more email subscribers. And then we sent an email every single week. So since we started our YouTube channel, we have always sent an email every week, and we've always posted a blog to go with the video. And quite a few of our videos have free downloads, more so in the beginning than now, but we do, anytime it seems relevant, we make a free resource to help people. And then of course it captures the emails as well.
Yeah, even if it's just a written summary of the video, like if you script your videos, speaking to people watching the podcast right now, like if you script a YouTube video, you've already gone 80% of the way to create, you can throw it in ChatGPT and say, make a worksheet out of this, make a quick guide. Did you guys ever struggle with imposter syndrome? This is something I think everyone always asks, which is like, oh, I don't feel qualified. Like, how did you guys kind of jump that gap and say like, well, I'm going to do it anyways?
Yeah. So my husband has a personality that he does really struggle with that. He's pretty open. He struggles with that. He has some codependency, he can struggle with social anxiety, which you wouldn't know as a YouTuber, but so he definitely struggled with that. But I'm on the other end where I don't really compare so much to other people. And I just had to take the perspective of, look, there is a gap in the market that we can fill. It's not just that we love this and want to do this, which is true. But when it came to Switzerland, you would have these big name YouTubers coming here, like Kira and Nate, for example, but they would only come and do one-off video or like 2 videos. And if you were just coming to plan your trip, there was no one at this time. And so when we started, there actually was another couple who was starting at the same time, but that was it. And there's room for 2 people in the market. And so I just kept having to remind us, like, we have spent years traveling Switzerland at this point. Like, we do know this stuff. We're not experts. We're not locals. But as a tourist, we've done all this stuff multiple times. So we do have something to share. And there are so many questions that we can answer. We're not perfect. We're not trying to be perfect, but we're not perfect and we're not experts, but we know more than the person who's never been here. And so I think we just had to remind ourselves there's a need that we can help and fill. And so we both have like teachers' hearts. We really both enjoy like sharing experiences with people. And so we almost had to block out even the potential of imposter syndrome and just say, this is who we are and this is what we can offer. And there's also a hole here that we can fill. And so I know that doesn't work so well for everybody, but in our industry and in our perspective, like even now, there's more people who are doing some Swiss content, but we just have to remind ourselves this is true who we are and people will value what we offer. And so I know that's not everybody's experience, but for me personally, I don't struggle with that as much. And so
That's good.
I'm probably the best person to answer the question, but
No.
that's it in a nutshell.
I think that was a really good answer, though. I mean, it's the way I always try to frame it is like the beautiful thing about creating videos and posting them online is that, well, if it does well, it's going to do well, and not many people are going to question you're an expert. And if it doesn't do well, that means nobody's going to see it, and it doesn't really matter. The sun's still going to come up tomorrow. Yeah, and that's how I was like, what's worst case scenario, right? I might get some mean comments from people who I've never met and will never meet in my life, and it's just not going to get many views, and it doesn't matter. And the only way to get what I want out of life is to try and continue to get better, and so this is just a step in trying. But anyways, I really do love that answer. When did you guys go full time? So you soft launch in September, you refactor, do a larger launch in March, and that was clearly a huge success. Were you guys full time at that point?
No, so we actually didn't go full time until 2024. So this was just last year. So we were still doing some other work on the side at this point. When we have that guide launch in March, at this point, I was still doing SEO copywriting. And then my husband at this point co-owns a gymnastics facility. He's kind of like the CFO there. So he was doing that work on the side as well. And then we were doing Apples in the Alps. So we were part-time doing all these different things until about a year ago. And it just, we had this point where we actually hired an assistant to help us with our inbox and customer service, stuff like that, when we were still working other jobs, which I look back and think, why didn't we just stop working other jobs and put more time in? But it didn't make sense at that point. And also, we just wanted help from somebody else to run our inbox for sure. Honestly, it's amazing that when we went full time, like our business had another like leap in growth, which is crazy because it feels like we didn't do that much more work all of a sudden, but we really did. And so, yeah, going full time was a really smart move for us. But we had this ratio that we had in mind almost before we felt comfortable jumping into full time. We wanted to have 2/3 of our income come just from selling our own products. And when we kind of hit that threshold, we felt like, okay, it's a safer kind of security. So, of course, when we started, it was like 75% of our income was just YouTube ad revenue, right? But we wanted to slowly switch that. And so now I would say about 2/3 of our income is from our own products. And then the other 1/3 is divided mainly with YouTube, but we also have some small affiliate partners that we get some revenue from as well. And that just for us felt like a secure landing because YouTube can be all over the place. Our business is so seasonal that we can make 3 times the amount in the peak summer months than we do in the winter months. And so it was really important to feel like if we're going to go full time, we're going to be okay.
Yeah, it's so funny. That was my next question, which was like break it down. YouTube, AdSense revenue, sponsorships, affiliates, and digital products. And it sounds like digital products naturally makes up the largest share of your income. Can you walk through a little bit of like the strategy behind selling your digital products? I know it because I walked through it myself. I've experienced the funnel, but like, how does a viewer find you? How do they get introduced to the guides? What are kind of like your selling strategies to bring somebody from knows nothing about you to is now, a Stripe notification in a sense?
Yeah. Okay. I love this question. Like the buyer's journey. So, pretty much everybody finds us through YouTube. We do have organic traffic on our website. We do have an Instagram, but we're just going to assume you're coming from YouTube. So, you find our videos. Pretty much every video is going to have a mention of our guides because that's where you can really get the best recommendations. You're going to get a lot of free stuff in the video. But if you're like, oh my gosh, this is so good, I want more, you're going to find out about our guides or a free resource. So you're going to go to our website, either you purchase a guide or a resource, and you're going to get the product, obviously, but then you're going to get dropped into our welcome sequence. So this is one email every day for a whole week. And the goal with this is what you just said. I don't know anything. I'm planning my trip. What do I need to know about my trip? But also, what about you? Like, what do you have to offer me as a consumer? And so it just walks through like planning your trip, resources that we use, recommend, here's videos for more information, a free download. It goes through all of these things. So you're really getting a wide snapshot of what we have to offer and how we can help you. And then, of course, if you buy a guide, you actually get this guide, which is a detailed itinerary telling you where to go, how to get there, activities, prices, all these things. There's a whole lot there. It's a big bundle.
It's broken down, I mean, hour by hour, right? Like, hey, wake up at the, it's you guys are like, hey, you can be flexible, but like wake up at this time. You have this amount of travel to here. It really takes a lot of for people like me who don't want to hire a travel agency to make every decision. It's like, hey, here is every decision, why the decision's made, and then changes you could do. It's like almost like a decision tree, which I really
and
like.
part of that says there's public transportation here, and so you kind of have to have a timeline because it doesn't run every minute, right? So it really is a minute by minute itinerary. It's supposed to be, like you just said, a done for you itinerary that is adaptable. Like we want you to have your own preferences, your own travel pace, but you really want our best recommendation of what we would genuinely say. Like if we're hanging out with you over a cup of coffee and you ask us these questions, this is what we're going to say. So you're getting a ton of information there, including our personal opinions of why we like this and why we don't, or, hey, we don't like this, but if you have kids, this is a great option, things like that. We try to be really holistic. And so we want people to feel like they're getting personal advice. So it's always from Jana and Brett. It's not just a robot or AI. It's really personal, but it really is a general recommendation. And then we continue that journey with our weekly email. So we send one every Saturday. And this always includes, if we have a new video, something about that. But we always tell a personal travel story or where we're traveling on our own. We do so much travel that never shows up on YouTube because there's just too much to capture, right? Like there's 26 Swiss cantons, which are like American states. And we are planning our trip to the very last one, the 26th one. So then we can say we've been to every canton, right? And we're telling our email list about that. We're showing pictures from our trip. We're sharing the best things that we did. You could add to your map, stuff like that. But we also share, hey, really important seasonal closures of things or when there's a new feature somewhere. So we're giving kind of this blend of, again, it's the infotainment approach of here's who we are and what we recommend, how we're living, but also here's what you want to know as a tourist and when you want to travel and what's interesting to you too. So that's kind of the general funnel from first finding us on YouTube to kind of that weekly nurturing.
Yeah. And I mean, it sounds too like a big part of your business is like the community element, which is like you are very, you send the emails and I never feel like, at least from my experience, I'm not like really heavily being sold to. It's more of like, hey, here's a window into the way we think. And if you want like more detailed guides, access, whatever it is, like we have these products. But I think that moving forward with YouTube and just being a creator, you always have to offer value to get people interested in you. But then once they are interested, a way that you can separate yourself is creating that community element. And I think you guys sharing those stories helps with the relatability, the approachability side of the business, which then, you know, the reciprocity of it, like you guys have done so much for me, you've whatnot, it makes purchasing products easy. It's why like in our, you know, in our courses, I go live every week. I do Q&As. I try to spend an hour a day answering people's questions and, you know, we send newsletters and whatnot as well. We do this podcast, which is a deeper dive. So it's all things like that, you know, for people becoming a creator. I'm really saying this to make you think about like, it goes beyond just making a video, asking for a sale. Tactically on YouTube, can you walk me through a little bit about your process, which is more so like, all right, it's Monday, which is video idea brainstorming day. From that start to then the finish of posting the video, what does it really look like for you guys?
Yeah, this is such an intriguing topic to me because I have listened to other podcasts and seen other videos about how people do this process for them. And it's just, I feel like it's all over the map and it really depends on who you are. But so we're a team. Brett and I do everything together. And so we kind of go back and forth on a lot of roles. But for us, it really starts with a year at a glance. So we usually in like November, December say, what do we want to do for the year? So for example, which travel guides are we going to produce? So this year we're researching for guides we're going to produce next year. So we have to know like, what are we going to produce and kind of when are they going to be launched? Then we back up and say, okay, quarterly, what kind of videos do we want to produce? Because we take this approach of like priming the audience for a sale. So we're just talking about you have to give them value. And so if we're going to have a new guide about Geneva, well, we need to kind of prime the audience to show them some taste of Geneva and why they're going to want more and why they're going to want to spend time there. So we have to kind of work backwards that way. So then we have kind of quarterly ideas of let's, you know, post about these places or these topics. And then we take one quarter at a time. So the current quarter, and we literally plan out each of the videos. So which topics, so we have kind of different buckets and different locations. So every quarter we need a video in each of the regions that we focus on, things like that. And so we have our titles and ideas for each video. And then we take the actual video and Brett does kind of some general research. He watches other similar videos on YouTube and he writes an outline, kind of a general idea. Then it comes back to me and I script it out. So I do more research. I think about writing. This is where, okay, do we have a catchy intro and hook in the beginning? Do we introduce ourselves in the video? Was there an ask for a like or a comment? What are we pointing to in the CTA? All that kind of stuff. So then I go through it and I write it out, kind of assign speakers, think about where are we going to film, if we're out, if we're at home, that kind of thing. And Brett obviously reviews it as well because we're both in the video. And then we go film it. And usually Brett's the videographer. He does all of our B-roll. He's got an eye for that, like artsy stuff, not for me. But we both are in the videos. You'll pretty much always see us. We always want to be like a pair. That's kind of our brand, Jana and Brett. So then after video filming, Brett jumps all of our footage, backs everything up, make sure we don't lose it because that would be awful. And that would be a lot of work wasted. And then I start editing. So I basically make the timeline. I put the story elements in. I put all of just all of the talking clips in the video. And I put all the text on the screen that we're going to use. I add in some B-roll. And then Brett makes it all beautiful. He does all of the audio blending. He does like fun graphics and music. He polishes it. And by the time he's done, we watch it together. And I'm like, that is not the video I made. He does an amazing job. So we both tag team editing. Brett uploads it to YouTube. I do all of the content. So I do the thumbnail, I do the description, all that stuff. He does the ads and cards and end screens. I do the blog and he does the ads on the blog. And then I do the email and we publish. So that's really a lot of back and forth, that he's more the creative and financial stuff, the technical stuff. And I'm more like content and marketing, that kind of thing. So we have our roles and blend together, but it is a lot of back and forth, which I will say can slow down the process. But the whole process of that for both of us combined is usually about 40 hours per video, from just starting with the outline to like it is done and published. And that includes blog, email, if there's free downloads, anything like that. So it's about 40 hours per video.
Yeah, and that makes sense. It is a lot of time per video, but you guys are not just sitting at a desk and speaking. You are, traveling. You are, there's a lot that goes on in that. So a question that I have, because my videos historically were all me at a desk, and I love that. I can sit and read from it. I love scripting everything out word for word. I'll read it in front of a teleprompter, and then I just film a ton of B-roll that I'll overlay on the video. Never stock footage, always like unique, valuable B-roll. But lately, our best videos over the past year really are ones where I'm consistently jumping around to different locations, which I think is a big trend on social media, YouTube, even Facebook ads, right? It helps keep the viewer engaged. You guys have obviously been doing that for a really long time. And I want to know, do you plan in the script where you're going to be when you say each line? Because in second question, are you filming these videos chronologically, or are you filming them out of sequence?
Oh man. So we do have some more informative videos that we do tend to film at home. And those we do film in order. Typically, if the video is about 12-ish to 15-ish minutes, we just each have one spot and we film, but it goes back and forth. So you're getting that like movement, but it's just Jana films all her stuff here and Brett films all his stuff here. But when we go out, it's a totally different ball game. I mean, if you think about when you go on vacation to Disney World or Jollywood, something like that, you're working with those environments. And that's where we're typically going. Like we're in these touristy areas. So when we've been to the area, we do think about where we're going to film. So we want to usually show the place. So like if we're going to be in the mountains, we want to film somewhere you're going to actually see that in the background. So we do try really hard to think about where can we film this. And we rarely film in a place we've never been, because just personally, based on our morals and values, like we want to give advice that we've actually done it. Like we've been there. This is not just our first time blogging as you go. So we do have an idea of where to film. It can be really tricky because there's a lot of people around. There's wind in the mountains. The sun is really strong. I mean, it can be difficult, but we do try to film. And we actually write in our script like the location of filming. So this is going to be filmed here. And so sometimes it's not filmed in order. And if we're doing an activity, maybe there's a path to follow or a hike you're going on, of course, that's in order. But a lot of times it's not. So if we're going 15 things to do in this village, like we're just going to like start at the village and walk through and film what we need to, but it might be totally out of numerical order for whatever reason. And so sometimes the editing is really difficult because we're having to piece together and rearrange, but it just depends on the content. And we really, really try to let content dictate our process. Like what is the end result and how do we need to get there? Do we need to film in order or do we not? Do we need to like film in 5 different places in our house, or can we just sit in one spot? So we always try to back up and really think about what does the content actually need? What is going to make it come across the best for the viewer?
That makes perfect sense. Yeah. And I do think those videos are always so engaging. And that's really smart too. Like just film everything here or half the video here, half the video here, and then just constantly switch back. I do that sometimes. I have 2 offices that I film in, and sometimes I'll just film the script fully upstairs and then fully down here, and I'll just cut back and forth, which I do think helps a lot. Video ideation, how big a role does thumbnails and titles play in your process?
So titles play a huge role, and we are trying to up our thumbnail game. That's what we keep saying. We need to up our thumbnail game. I think titles really have to capture the idea, and thumbnails do too, but you don't have as much words on the thumbnails. So we aim for like high information or curiosity in our thumbnails. But with titles, man, they are massive. So we kind of have these buckets, we call them, of titles that just really work and we stick with them, but we attempt to try new ones as well. So for example, tourist mistakes is one of our biggest buckets. Every tourist mistake video we have made has the most views on our channel. Like if you sort by popular, those are going to be at the top. So we try to take these different angles on tourist mistakes. So that's a really good title, but then we have to have a very curiosity driven thumbnail to go with it. We don't often make thumbnails a huge like driver of the content. It kind of is more of an afterthought of how can we make the thumbnail really clickable for our content. And part of that also is just our content. Like we're going to a village and the whole video is about this village. Like there's only so much you can do. Like we can't be that creative in a thumbnail about 10 things to do in Interlaken, you know? But there are other times that we try to be really intentional. So like a scenic train ride, we try to get a really good shot of the train. And we always, always, always have us in the thumbnail. So again, this is our brand. This is something we don't budge on. One or both of us are always in a thumbnail because that's clickable for our audience. They know, oh, that's Jana. Oh, that's Brett. And so, but honestly, I'd love any advice about thumbnails because that's something we're trying to improve on. But I think thumbnails and then with titles too, SEO is huge. So that's my background, SEO copywriting, but what are the terms people are searching and find a way to use them because you want your title to be as if they already thought it in their head. You want it to be exactly what they searched for on YouTube before they even realize that's what they're looking for. So really the concept of a title is not just the idea, but also like, what are the words you people are using? What is the title they are looking for? And obviously that goes with the thumbnail too.
Yeah, yeah. And something that you guys do that I feel very strongly with how we operate our channel too is it seems like all of your videos are evergreen in that like they can get views the day they're posted or they can get views 5 years from now. And you structure your titles in a way that will consistently attract views over time. And for anyone watching who's like, oh, I want to get into a digital product space, I want to monetize my passion. A lot of people will focus on like, oh, the new iPhone came out. Let me do a review. It's like, okay, cool. You might get views a month doing that, right, for the first month, but then it no longer is relevant. And so you have to constantly kind of be a slave to creating new videos day in and day out. And so what we do is like how to shoot a cinematic interview on your iPhone. And it's like, okay, now here's that same product, but in a video that's evergreen. So the reason this matters is you can go 5 months without posting a video and still get views, right? Christmas can come along and you don't need to stress about posting or whatever. I'm curious how much you guys factor that evergreen nature into your ideation process, or if it's just kind of a natural byproduct of what you guys do.
No, it's definitely part of it because, like I mentioned earlier, we post every 2 weeks. So we only get 24 videos a year. So we only get that, which means we need to be hyper intentional about what we post. And we don't want to have to repost the same video that we made last year, this year. So obviously, when you travel, like prices are going to change at places or maybe a few details, but we try to make videos evergreen so that you just said they can last. So for example, there's this place called Jungfraujoch, top of Europe. It's one of the most marketed tourist attractions in Switzerland. We posted a video there the first year we were on YouTube, and it's still one of our top performing videos. Now, it helps that this is like a very researched topic. Like people want to know about this place. It's well marketed, but also we made it evergreen. We weren't like blogging about our day in the summer. We weren't like talking only about activities you can do in 1 month of the year. Like we intentionally tried to structure our stuff so that it has a life. Now we're trying to figure out at this point, we've been on YouTube 4 years. When do you remake videos? Does it depend on the video and the content? So that's something we're actually trying to figure out and learn. And we're going to try to remake a few videos, but still to keep them evergreen enough to maybe have another 3, 4, 5 year lifespan. However, some of our heavy informative videos, like our train pass guide, a lot of people ask about train passes. If you started researching Switzerland, you know what I'm talking about. But those are so detailed that we do often make a video about that every year, maybe 18 months. It's one of the biggest topics, but also it kind of requires that. And then we can phase out the older ones as well. So we actually do remove them from our channel after a couple years after there's a new version. And so we've made, I believe, 3 train pass videos, but you only see 2 on our channel because that first one is not obsolete, but the other ones are better, newer, more informative, things like that. So it kind of depends on the content. We allow the informative stuff to be more in the moment, but the other stuff's more generic.
Interesting. Yeah, I've never heard the like removing the old videos from the channel. We're huge fans of remaking content because it's more, little magnets out there that can attract people. And if you know it's a popular topic and you have 3 videos on it, I always think about it like, if there's a tutorial on how to do something and you make one and it's doing really well, there are still 5 other videos on YouTube that are probably really popular tutorials on the same topic. So you're already kind of losing viewership to probably one of those 4 other major tutorials or 500 other tutorials, whatever it is. And so if you remake that video, you now might own another spot in that top rank. So you might not really be impacting your own video, but you're just, again, there's so much viewership on that topic. You're just giving more magnets. And I also think about it like, I love the show Friends. And if I could watch, I rewatch episodes all the time, but if there was another angle from the same episode where it's like, oh, it's the same topic, but they're doing it again. It's like, well, you were already going to rewatch that episode, but now there's this new version, like an extended cut. And I'm like, I'm all here for that. And that we've found on our channel that like, rather than stress yourself out and try to come up with these like crazy new ideas, if you have content like a CapCut editing tutorial for us, there are so many different ways to edit in CapCut, right? You're not doing your channel a disservice by making 2 videos on the topic. You're just giving people more ways to learn. And we find that a lot of people will find the old video first because it might have more views. And then the suggested video on YouTube will be the newer one. And now they've watched that as well. They've spent more time with you. So
I also love you're talking about the little magnets because when I search for something on YouTube, usually I scroll a little bit first to kind of see like, what are my top options? What are the top things it recommends? And if I see the same creator on there twice, I instantly assume they have more authority. Like they have 2 spots on here. So I'm going to watch one of theirs and I'm more likely to pick if there's multiple videos from the same person. So actually, I've never considered that, but I love the idea of the little magnets and that's brilliant. I'm going to have to take that and run.
there we go. Well, I never thought of that either. Having like 2 people on the same, search. It's like, oh, that does make a lot of sense. All right, great. We both had a breakthrough. Thank you so much I have one more question for you, but this has been incredible. So thank you so much. I kind of always ask people this, which is if you were to go back to the beginning of your journey now, and you guys have done incredible. I mean, just starting to full-time in a matter of years. And really, you guys were almost like full-time income within a year or so of really taking it seriously. But what's something that you know now that you wish you had known at the beginning that really would have sped up your journey?
I think what we touched on earlier of like, you have to just be a beginner and try. And don't over stress yourself out trying to make it this perfect, elaborate, all in product. Like, just start and you're going to learn as you go. And I think both Brett and I wish that maybe we had started some of those projects sooner, but also had a little more grace with ourselves, a little more wiggle room to just try and learn. And like you said, in the digital product world, everything can be updated or tweaked and changed. It's not like a book in print that cannot be changed. Like that's forever a book in print, right? So I think if I were to go back, I would say like, you can do it, give yourself grace, but just keep taking the next step. And maybe you don't feel ready. When a baby learns how to walk, they probably don't always feel ready. And sometimes they fall, but sometimes they don't. And sometimes they realize they can take more than one step. And so I think the same applies of just take the next step and try and do it. And sometimes I'm a big believer that sometimes we have to fail, quote unquote, fail to actually learn and grow and continue. And so allow yourself the grace to make the mistakes, but keep going.
It's incredible last answer to end the podcast on. We're going to have all of your information in the description. So channel, social media, website. If you're watching this and you made it to the end, first off, hit the subscribe button. Second off, check out their content because I can vouch for it. It's incredible. But other than that, thanks for watching and we'll see you in the next podcast.